All right, recording's in progress.
Thank you for joining us for the East Aurora Village Board meeting for January 6, 2025. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Lizikas.
Here.
Trustee Cameron.
Here.
Trustee Vijay.
Here.
Trustee Flynn.
Here.
Trustee Raby.
Here.
Trustee Shear.
Here.
Mayor Mercurio.
Present.
7 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the Village Board meeting for December 16th, 2024?
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I get a motion to approve the payment of the January 6, 2025 abstract for 24-25 fiscal year for a total of $182,091.96.
So moved.
Moved by Molly, second.
Second.
Second by Grace. Further discussion?
Yeah, I was curious. There were two charges that I saw that I was just curious what they're for. The street maintenance at $66,000. Is that the payment of a
Was
truck?
that was for a loader that had a trade-in?
Okay.
Was it for Bobcat?
I didn't know. Bobcat had two. Bobcat had two 12,000
Right.
exact charges, two $12,000 charges that were exactly the same.
So which charge are you referring?
Well, I was curious about those two, why they were identical and why they were two.
Oh,
And-
because half is charged to the general fund and half is charged to the water fund, because
Okay.
the equipment is used for both funds. So we have to keep it separate for our accounting purposes.
Cool, thanks. And then that must have been the balance of a piece of equipment for the street maintenance, the loader, you're saying?
I think it's the loader, the 44.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it, that's all I saw that I was curious about. I'm good.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. All right, this is our first speakers and communications. You'll be able to speak on any topic. Before that, I would like to ask our village administrator, Shane Krieger, to make a statement and tell us what he's been working on.
Sure. The mayor and I have been working on talking to Go Nut Speed after several meetings recently. I was told by Go Nut Speed today that they are currently working on a plan to reroute the cable for the oak tree on South Grove and will not touch that oak tree. So, that's it.
Bye, Harvey.
I was gonna say, I thought everybody was gonna get up and go that.
Yeah. Nice job, Shane.
Thank you, Shane.
All right, so this is the open speakers and communications. There is a second one at the end of the meeting. If you have an issue you'd like to talk on, please raise your hand when recognized. Come on up to the microphone, and we're going to ask everybody to keep it under 2 minutes, please. Okay?
We need your name and address.
Name and address into the mic. We do record all the meetings. Would anybody like to speak?
My name is Mary Ann Colby, 365 South Grove. I'm the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. After reading about the historic tree on South Grove, I reached out to SHPO. I reached out to local preservation office, and I also reached out to another preservation organization. The recommendations is that the village develop what is called a cultural landscape report. And the cultural landscape report will identify areas of significance outside the built environment. And this would go along with historic preservation. So for example, if we decided that there was a tree that was worthy of being landmarked in the village, that is something that the cultural landscape report would identify. But also talking with the communication from the folks at SHPO. Basically, it's a very complicated dance between the local government and the Public Service Commission, and trying to work things out is really the best advice that they can give. The local government cannot, what's the right word, dictate to the Public Service Commission what to do. What I am particularly concerned about is our streetscapes. Linden Avenue, the medium there is where the wires are, and that is a defining feature of East Aurora. I'm also concerned about trees that may be negatively impacted on our National Register properties and on our local landmark properties. So that's what I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary Ann. So, Joe?
Peter.
Hi.
Thank you. Steve Hartz, 248 Walnut Street. And that's great that you're trying to find a solution for the tree. But I also wanted to just bring to the board's attention, I don't remember if it was part of the master plan or not, Peter, but it certainly was discussed many years ago. And that was all the telephone poles that are in the parking lot with the head-on parking at the front of Hamlin Park there.
On South Grove,
and
yeah.
had discussed moving those poles up onto the grass or doing something with it. Maybe now that you're looking into this, it would be a good idea to revisit that as well. I see a lot of taillights that have been broken laying around out there. So something to think about. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Joe Trapp, real quick, our deputy attorney. Were you involved in the conversation with SHPO?
Briefly, I called them. So I did a follow-up email to them regarding the commission's email. I also called them. I did not get a call back before the end of the day. I'm hoping to speak with them tomorrow to hear more. But the bottom line is, as the chair said, they're a state commission. We asked SHPO, look, are you going to go to bat? Do you go talk with the Public Service Commission? They said no, that's not the process they do. We've reiterated the fact that we spoke to them, that we originally did get a stop work order, and then the PSC said, oh, no, stop work order's done. So there was nothing really more we could do from our end. I did express that if they had any ideas, that of course this board would be interested in hearing any further ideas. They did mention the cultural survey, but as the chair also mentioned, trees change, so it's very complex and there are difficulties. I know that there are grants that some municipalities use in order to do tree studies. The National Science Foundation funds a major one that some municipalities use as part of the open data systems, but it's an incredibly difficult thing to. They mentioned that there were one or two municipalities. I have not seen any case studies yet, and I think it'll be incredibly difficult to get their support to do anything. But as we said, as everyone who has taken civics knows, there's an order to governments, federal, state, and local. There's very little evidence or advice that they gave us as to what we could do as what we could do beyond what we've done now. What else was there? We talked about utility easements, but some of the stuff with utility easements are not coming from the state. Sometimes utility easements are given from local folks, so they did see some success there. But we're not dealing with a utility easement locally from one landowner to another. We're dealing with the state coming down and dictating. So unfortunately, it's a different scenario. But if I do hear other successful instances where SHPO got involved or other state departments get involved with the Public Service Commission, of course, I'll be happy to relay that to this board.
Thanks. So, from your understanding, can we identify a half dozen trees that we think we don't want them to take down, like in their cultural landscape report?
The short version is I will do whatever this board wants me to do to try to protect it. I have not seen, SHPO indicated that there may be a case study or two. I have not had a chance to look into that yet. And there was not great confidence isn't the right word, but let's just say it's not a regularly used pathway. So if it is successful, it would be a very interesting landmark kind of decision. So we could certainly try if that's of the opinion of this board, but it's a Hail Mary. So it's something you could try if you would like, but please don't get your hopes up. As I said, it's a state government dictating to us. There's very little wiggle room we have. We've tried all the standard pathways. I'll get as creative as this board wants me to get, but I can make no promises beyond that.
We might be able to do something if, like the oak tree that was discussed, singular trees throughout the village. But if you're talking about a wholesale, not cutting down any trees, that's never going to end up passing muster with the Public Service Commission. And SHPO, state agencies, while they will have conflicting opinions, they won't fight with each other.
Right.
That's
And
the
I asked them
problem.
point blank if they would.
Is it possible to litigate this? Can we sue the Public Service Commission to stop this damage and the damage that's being done to our community? Because there's monetary value in these trees, and to see these trees cut back to stumps and the damage done, we're being harmed.
What I can say is, I do my best, and so long as I have a rational reason, we can certainly bring lawsuits, but lawsuits are they're expensive. And there's very limited opportunity to be successful in this type of action when you're going uphill towards the state entity. We could certainly try, but that's a decision for this board in terms of how it wants to.
Are the trees that they're removing diseased, or they're just clear cutting?
Clear cutting.
I mean, yeah.
I think there are some very healthy trees that have been damaged, that have been really damaged beyond where they're.
I don't think
they've
it
lost-
matters what shape the tree's in. I think if it's in their way.
They're gonna cut
It's
it.
the right-of-way and the amount that
right-of-way, and
they
they-
dictate to be away from the wires.
And
And
according to the Public Service Commission, they have a right to do this. But the problem is, they're damaging our community. They're doing harm to our community, and it is, I believe, monetary damage, because we enjoy the shade of the trees. It's a reason people come here and take walks. There's damage being done to our community.
Liz, you're about to hate me. Sorry. Can you give me some pictures of the areas that they've hacked away? Sure. Thank you.
And is there a possibility to, once this all is well settled or over, for future reference, are we permitted to request, so they do this under the premise of maintenance? They haven't been here in 10-plus years. That's not maintenance. Can we ask for direction from them what they consider maintenance? Because if they were here every 3 years, I guarantee you they wouldn't be lopping off as much as they are now. So what's maintenance and we've been neglected, and now they are actually doing what I consider a capital improvement under the guise of maintenance, and we're paying the price. So my ultimate question is, moving forward, can we have them dictate what maintenance is and what the frequency of maintenance is?
We can certainly ask, but that may very well be something, if we can come up with a rationale to go after them legally in a courtroom.
If they don't.
Will address, yeah.
Well, Chris, to your point, Shane, what was your sense when you called them or talked to them about the tree on South Grove? Did they seem amenable if we did give them a list of, say, the trees that were on some of the historic properties or in some other high-value areas, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they might be amenable to moving the poles or discussing it at least?
Well, starting back several months ago, when a group of us, Jesse and I, and NYSEG and Go Net Speed and O'Connell Electric, met underneath this oak tree on South Grove, from that point till today, they had been looking at any alternate method of working around the tree that they could. Up until a couple weeks ago, it was, they couldn't. They had to take the 2 large branches hanging over the street, going through the lines off. With some more pleading,
Prodding, yeah.
prodding, whatever term you want to use, they've decided against, and it was I'm told, an argument within their group of routing the wire around it. I don't think there's going to be too much wiggle room going forward from the way I took it. There's been so much emphasis on this one particular tree from many in the community that they wanted this particular tree saved.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Go Net Speed finally made the decision they did. I don't think if we go tree by tree down the street, they're going to just say, sorry, we can't do it.
So you think this is kind of a one-off because you worked them over and they finally agreed to it and there was...
And I read several emails to them
Right.
and
I
told
mean,
them...
I guess I wasn't suggesting that we did a one-off on
Right.
everything, but if there was specific trees.
I mean-
To Mary Ann's point, the
Perhaps.
significance outside of the built landscape, you said, right? Yes. So this is going about it a different way, right? You went about it that way for that tree. Can we do it for 8 or 10 other trees that Jesse and the tree board come up with and say,
Right.
hey, these are trees? I mean, it still doesn't solve the problem.
I mean,
but-
we'll give it a shot, but I didn't sound very promising that
To get ahead of it?
this would be going forward the way they look at every individual tree.
But maybe if we go through SHPO, we'll get a different result.
I would like to say, when it would be more successful if, rather than a scatter shot, if there was a group of trees, a streetscape that contributed to a local landmark designation.
Well, and I'll just say real quick before that, because Go Net Speed made this decision on the tree on South Grove, that doesn't mean
Nice.
in May, NICEAG shows up on a Tuesday and cuts those 2 branches off and disappears and never tells us. I mean, they're not going to call us and tell us like Go Net Speed has. So just so everybody's aware of that possibility.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can interject. One local example I do have where the state comes in and does damage to a community would be Springville, when they put the highway around it, and it drastically affected the economic development there. They ended up applying for and getting a downtown revitalization initiative, a DRI, which is a $10 million grant. I'd highly recommend, because we can show damage and the community here can show the economic impact of the work being done in the short term to the negative at the very least, until you have history of what the capital improvement will do down the line. This may be an opportunity at the July, I believe, consolidated funding application to apply and get additional funds from the state. Of course, you can't promise anything, but I think it leads to a strong argument.
Thanks, Joe. So Chris, as far as any kind of legal action,
I'm thinking about it.
yeah?
Let me see what we can come up with.
Yeah, we've been harmed. And,
Now, everybody's going to get to talk in a minute, just the board, and that's our
And
HBC
you know
chair.
what drives me crazy is I have a right-of-way with the phone line, landlines, and power going through my backyard, across multiple properties, behind Bruce's Automotive and Charlie's Diner and all the way, and those are the wires that service the north side of Main Street, and they haven't done anything, those wires, to maintain. There's box elder trees leaning on the wires, I've called them. If they're cutting our trees and hacking our village trees apart like they have been and butchering our village, they better darn well come to my backyard and get rid of those trees that are leaning like, there's a tree that's this angle, leaning on a wire. The next windstorm, it's gonna rip that whole pole. It's happened before. You know, so they can't talk out of both sides of their mouth about maintaining their lines and wanting to trim everything and open it up and make it so we don't lose, fiber optic or power or whatever, and not take care of those other lines that belong to Verizon and NICEAG. They better take care of all these other lines as well.
Well, agreed, because by them not doing it, it just shows that they really are only worried about the new
Fiber optic.
new business. It's not
Exactly.
It's not maintenance. It's new business.
When I talked to them, you know, several times I've said, you need to trim those trees. We have a snowstorm, an ice storm, and it's going to rip all the wires out, and all those businesses on the north side of Main Street, across from West Hare, they're going to lose their power. And, you know, no one's, well, we can't cut the trees, they said, because it upsets people, is what they told me. That was several years ago, and they haven't done anything since. So it's frustrating.
Anyone else from the board before we go back to the public?
No, Tim, come on.
All right, who's next? Go ahead. Name and address, please.
Yep. My name's Holly Maciejewski, and I'm 218 Center Street, East Aurora, New York. And I'm a little unprepared to be speaking, so excuse me if I don't have all my thoughts in order or any notes. But I just think, I can't believe we're having the conversation, because the identity of our village is tree-lined, canopied streets. These trees make a difference to our quality of life, to the value of our homes, for sure, and we're all enjoying right now a very nice time with the value of our homes, and we can see that drop off quickly with this. And I can't imagine that what they're doing isn't somehow a cost-saving measure for both the tree company and the company that pays them to do this. And I just think they're probably saving quite a bit of money by just chopping it rather than doing it right. And I sent a letter earlier, I don't know how many of you had a chance to read it, but just like the project on Walnut and Prospect, it's not that the village is saying, don't do anything, you can't do anything, you can't touch our trees. We're saying, do it, but do it right. And we have the opportunity, and we have the right to demand that. And if we don't have any luck with lawsuits or whatever, why are we not shedding light on this? Why are we not getting other people involved? If everybody is like-minded on this, why aren't we talking to the news stations? Why aren't we talking to the governor? Why aren't we shedding more light on this? Because we're definitely being hurt by this. So if I don't even know the other organizations that everybody's been referring to, but if they're not able to help us, somebody else is. And especially if we're a united community, and that's what we want. That's what I think.
Thanks, Holly.
Mayor, can I just say something?
Please, sure.
Just so everybody's aware, the letter that our attorney Chris wrote to the Public Safety or Public Service Commission, that was brought to the attention of the governor, I was told. So the governor is aware of it. She's from Hamburg. She knows of East Aurora. And that was part of why there was a pause put in their work until everybody from the state level looked at what was going on, just so everybody's aware.
So I guess we have a letter writing campaign to her, and we act on that, and especially with that now.
Spirit.
That tells us that's the way to go. Because it sounds like the...
Yeah, I don't know if she's going to do more than what she did to begin with. I don't know.
Our identity, and I'm sure she knows that. It's not, we're not Amherst, we're not highways, and it's part of our identity. And I don't think it should be taken away from us lightly, or that we just say, oh, okay, we can't do anything about it. Well, of course we can. Four things to do.
Thanks, Shannon.
Keith.
Who?
You guys can't talk at your seats. I'm sorry.
Nancy? No, they can talk to each other.
Well, they can talk next to them, but not publicly.
Nancy Smith, 195 Sycamore Street in East Aurora. So we have been designated as a tree city for over 26 years, and there's this super cool app that you guys can look it up. It's called iTree. It gives the economic value of our trees, and it's estimated at $553,916 every year. Those are just for the ecosystem services, so that's like air pollution removal, stormwater mitigation, and carbon dioxide uptake. There's also, a range of estimates on property values, but they tend to settle on about 15%, so that's every house and for the whole community, 15% of the property value. I've been trying to get a number for what are our residential properties worth. So I don't have that yet, but it also says right on that website, it's a USDA Forest Service website, that our tree canopy is 41%. That's really high. Like you said, we're known as tree-lined, and it's so important to all of us on many levels. In other municipalities in Erie County, I went through all of the villages and cities, and ours is the third highest. So if we're going to damage half our trees, what is that economic impact? So that's really significant. I've been trying to learn and get up to speed on all of this, and today I watched a little short video. There are a bunch of NYSEG documents that you can look at that has a lot of good information that explains why this is happening. So this is a 5-year initiative. This is year 2. The first year impacted Lancaster, similar to what's happening to us. So it's not like a willy-nilly thing. There's money set aside for this to happen. What can we learn here that can save us and can also impact all of the other communities in Western New York? That this is going to land where they show up and then, 3 days later, they're out on the street cutting trees down. So how can we all benefit from this? This video talked about communication being the key, good communication between the company and the property owners to ensure that there are no surprises. I don't think that's happening. The NYSEG documents talk about the residents getting a postcard telling them that it's about to happen. So how can the village help get that communication out? Can the village website have that video that I sent you all about from American Forests about why trees matter? It could have our economic value. It could have those documents from NYSEG that explains why this is happening and what to expect. So you can help residents feel more settled with why it's happening. That's a role you can take. And finally, there is money that I think we could absolutely get. The DEC has a grant that's due in March. It's for community forestry. Lancaster in 2023 received $255,000 for urban forestry, so we can get money to put our trees back as fast as we can to do proper planning. So that's an action you guys could take, because it's obvious you all really care about this as much as the people in the audience today. Finally, just as an example of one other community that has listed heritage trees, so Lewiston has, because we had the Stella Niagara project up there, they had trees that had been standing when the War of 1812 took place. So their historical society created a whole booklet that cataloged and took pictures of those trees. So it's just another resource that you might want to check into for another place that's done something like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
You always have the best information, Nancy. I know. I love it when you go on the internet during the day. It's great.
Next. Who wants to speak? In the back?
Sheila Giblin. I live on East Fillmore, and I'm not used to talking to these groups, but they just took my 2 trees. They took a super old maple that did have a dead branch, and I kept saying I don't think it's dead, but they were going to take it. The trees they've come down our road and gone straight up. Trees always survived, and they took a big black walnut. Both were valuable. My neighbors up the street had their trees cut in V's, and they asked them, they said, these trees are dead, they're going to die the way you've cut them, will you take them down? And they said, no, we're not allowed. To me, they were like, we have to take your trees, even though for the last 17 years they just go up. And along with you, Ernie, I live on East Fillmore, so my backyard is Warren Road, the creek. My backyard is the NYSEG easement. It's caught on fire. We've called them and said, the trees are on fire, can you come? They say, no, the trees keep falling on our side of the yard. They knock our trees out. They have done no maintenance, as you want to call it, on that side for 17 years. They won't take the trees, and we have to take them because if they go down and someone's in the creek. But so this whole quick going through thing, I would want to know, I guess because I haven't been at these meetings, is anybody checking in to make sure that they're doing due diligence really on these trees? Because mine were like, we're coming, we're going to take them today. And they took them and they cut them in 8-foot planks. They, ground the little pieces, but everything else seems like it could be used for wood projects. They came trucks 2 days later. It seemed much more monetarily valuable to the company that was doing it than it did to, because why wouldn't they have just taken the small trees that are now literally, you can drive up East Fillmore, there's a V under these lines. and it seems like the company didn't.
Could you just repeat that for me, please? Did you say that they were logging the trees?
I don't know if they took like they cut them in like about 8 foot, and then they came in the big trucks and took those. But the trees that were little that they asked are about this wide.
Yeah.
And they just cut them that way and left them, which it would have been just as easy because my branches were that wide. And the branches of my trees, they were just putting in the, like shredder.
Well, the walnut has a lot of value.
Yeah.
My neighbor had a walnut taken down, and
And
the
it was
guy was...
huge. It's one of the-
the guy-
it was one of the tallest.
The guy who took the walnut down was very interested in the saw logs
Yeah.
up top.
And I'm not saying I love the black.
No, I know,
They're
but
pain.
you can kind of
But-
sense
but
what
there's
might have
value to-
happened.
Yeah, it was a maple and a black walnut, and the other ones were, I don't know, they're gonna die. They're literally a V underneath the line, and it just didn't, I went out and talked to them, and I argued against them taking a tree across the street, because it's an old sycamore, and I said, there's no way there's any damage on that tree. It was, they've had tree doctors to take care of it, and they stayed away because we said it, but there's clearly value in my trees, and behind me, they won't touch any of
They
them.
won't touch it, the same thing with me, and I've called this, I had the same conversation, it's probably the same line.
It is.
It goes down behind Fillmore,
Yep, that's
you
where,
know,
yeah.
right-
And it was
right
on-
behind my
it was
house, all the
literally
way
on
up,
fire, and they wouldn't.
all the way down.
And it's their property, it's their easement, and all of the trees have since, there's at least 4 in the last, 5 years that have fallen. If anybody had gone by to check from NYSEG with this concern, they would have seen these trees keep going, they keep crashing in, and so, I don't know what can be done, but I do think that O'Connell was going through pretty quickly to take ones, or appear.
Can we ask for documentation from residents of that line being neglected?
The line being,
The power line in the back of the easement line being neglected by NYSEG.
I mean, we've got box elders, I mean, I'll take pictures, like, literally lying on top of the wires, like this, and they won't take them down.
yeah, well, there are a couple issues here. One, you've got Go NetSpeed doing this work. For their equipment, they may not be putting it behind your house. That may be something that is more of a Verizon or NYSEG issue, so that has to get sorted out. I am intrigued by the logging aspect of it.
Just that, I don't know, they waited 3 or 4 days. They
It
came back
sounds-
with the
it
big
sounds
truck,
fishy.
And that's what my neighbor pointed out.
Yeah.
She said, they wouldn't take mine. Why did they take it? And she
Go
said,
out
I
and take
noticed how they.
pictures,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Take pictures of what they're doing.
And I say this based on, after it happened to me, I was like, oh my gosh, driving down Girard, how many trees are right by the lines, but have been trimmed probably at some point like mine were, but look like nice old trees that could be used for something, like they're wide. So.
I just have to ask a question.
You gotta come up, you gotta wait.
Wait,
You have
wait,
to
No, I was thinking, can I walk away or do I have to stay?
Yes, you may.
You're dismissed.
Thanks, Sheila. Jesse, you want to go?
Yeah.
Let's let everybody have a turn first, okay, Holly?
Let's see, Jesse Griffiths, I'm the chair of the tree board here in the village. To at least some of Bridget's concern about the saw logs, we are trying to work with the Rock on salvaging some of that wood to use for firewood eventually. So that may be part of what they were doing there. I know that's.
Well, the question was, were they giving it to the village or the residents or the tree board or were they keeping it for themselves?
Well, they're, right now, is, my understanding is they're collecting it somewhere out Seneca Street, Buffalo Road. And then we were working with Rock to try to salvage anything that's firewood usable and have it, provided to other residents at low or no cost sometime in the future. I don't know if anybody's diverting the occasional black walnut log. I hate to hear of any black walnut getting cut
Yeah,
down there.
black walnut's not good firewood, so.
It's not great firewood, but it would be valuable. But that's probably worth checking into, sure. Also, addressing Bridget's concerns, we went through with O'Connell and their arborist to determine when a tree should be taken down and when it shouldn't. I think we've come to the agreement that any tree that had to have more than 50% of its canopy removed was unlikely to survive, and therefore would be a decent candidate to be removed entirely. I haven't been down East Fillmore specifically, so I can't speak to those trees in particular, but that may be why certain trees were taken down and certain weren't. Let's see, I did take some notes, though. So I guess, given the news on the so-called fairy tree on South Grove, I'll let other people speak about that one. And it's good to hear about that tree, but it's going to be an interesting task for us to run around and try and keep up with them, especially since we don't know exactly which lines they're going to be installing fiber optic on. They won't give us any map of what they're doing that I've seen. Are they going to be going behind Ernie's house? Are they going to be going behind Bridget's house? When are we going to know whether they will or not?
So you've asked them for the map and they haven't?
Well, they won't give us schedule. I don't think, when we said, I can't recall, honestly. There's been so many meetings. I don't remember if we specifically asked for a map of exactly where they're going.
Mayor, it's an entire village and some parts outside the village.
Sure. So, yeah, that's what they've always told us, that they're going to be the entire village and then the north part of the town to the Elma Town line. But is that every single line in the village? I mean, they say they're going to cover.
It's my understanding every line that has utility lines
Yeah.
on. If
Yeah.
yours has all the utility lines on.
Yeah, maybe it's going to go there, yeah. But we don't have, we should probably try to confirm that.
Okay.
And then I just also wanted to just note, again, I know you guys probably are aware that, the tree board in general is not just a bunch of tree huggers who aren't going to accept any loss of any tree in the village. There's some trees in the village that are showing significant decline. Unfortunately, a lot of the silver maples on Girard, they're on their last legs. There's a really large oak tree at the corner of Center and Oakwood that has some pretty significant fungal growth at its base. That's generally an indication that the tree's in trouble. So we should probably have that one checked out as soon as we can, or sooner rather than later, depending on, I'm not even sure where the wires are over there right now. But really our job is to help you guys manage the entire canopy, not just defend the trees at all costs and chain ourselves to them. Like some people do.
Is that Jen's job?
That's Jen's job, yeah. She's our enforcer right now. But Ernie, yeah, go ahead.
Say, what do you think about the idea of trying to identify a handful of significant trees?
Yeah,
At
I
least
think it's
in the
worthwhile.
short term,
I think it's
while the
worthwhile.
rest of the litigation, just
Yeah.
to see if we can say,
It's
hey,
worthwhile. I
these
think
10 trees.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ernie has a real good point that there is financial and environmental harm being done to the village. And the big problem that we have, especially when they say, no, we're not going to touch the trees here, but these ones are going to do it. Oh, we're just going to show up one day and not tell anybody that we're coming. It seems capricious to me. It's at whatever their whim. That doesn't seem right to me. NICEAG's documents, they tell us, oh, we have the right to maintain the vegetation in the right-of-way. Fair. What does that mean exactly? They tell us it's 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, and 15 feet. Nancy sent me a PDF that she found on NICEAG's own site, coming from Avangrid, that has 8 feet as the distance from the lines, and 8 feet from the poles. So which is it? Is it the day of the week? How do they make that determination? Where do they decide? Where did the 10 feet come from? The only standard that I've been able to find, it's different everywhere around the country. You look at different electric companies around the country, they give you different numbers. The only information that I've been able to find online comes from FERC, that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, that did studies on high-tension lines to give you distances that vegetation should be cleared from high-tension lines. And that's based on the threat of electrical arcing, jumping across during wet weather. I think, given our village, if arcing was really a concern, I think the whole village would probably have burnt out by now.
We'd be up in flames.
So, yeah. So, and the other problem that I have with them is that they suggest that this is all maintenance. How do they choose what, they're picking and choosing what they want to do for maintenance. They obviously don't want to do maintenance there. They haven't wanted to do maintenance in the village for decades, I would say. Some of these huge trees, they didn't grow that way overnight. So, I guess what we'd like, part of this is, the transparency and accountability that we've talked about before. Shane talked about the fact that they could come in anytime and cut any tree without telling us. They have the right to cut the tree. They have the right to maintain their right of way. I don't argue that. But can't we argue that they should let us know? Can't we argue that they should be transparent about what they're doing and when?
I think go net speed is, but NICEAG would just come and go.
Well, yeah, that's fine. But what gives NICEAG the right to just come and go? They have the right to maintain that vegetation. That's fine. But ought they not let the owners know? If they're going to come onto your property and cut one of your trees, they'd have to let you know.
Right, so is that their
The
strategy
village.
to avoid people protesting?
Yeah,
and
maybe so.
fighting back?
But it just seems like-
I actually was on Warren at my parents' house, and they came years back.
Sure.
And they wanted to trim, it's the other side of the creek. They wanted it from East Fillmore, they wanted
Right.
to trim some of the trees.
Yep.
And, my parents were home and called me, and I went over there, and the neighbors said, "You can't go on my property," and that was it.
Sure.
They didn't, they just went to the next house,
Yeah.
My
This is
folks
village
were like,
property.
"Can you try to go
This
easy
is the
on
village right
that
away.
tree?" And
The
they're
village
like,
right
"Sure."
away is technically village
Yeah.
property. Can we
But I
at
mean,
least tell them
that
they
might
gotta
be their
tell us?
move, right, to do it
Yeah.
without
Yeah,
warning.
piecemeal.
So can we demand that they give us a heads up in advance on what their schedule is? I mean, legally, can we require it?
Right now, under the PSC rules, I would say, no, we can't require it. We can certainly request it. We can certainly address it through the PSC, and
That'd be,
I've got a page and a half of notes
Oh, sure.
already.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I
That
thought-
I'm thinking of
you know-
as everyone is talking different
oh, absolutely.
alternatives.
Right
what
faster.
can be done.
Well, one question I might have, I'm obviously not a lawyer, but what weight do the PSC rules have versus a law? Like I've mentioned, this 10-foot idea is nothing
But that's-
statutory that says that.
No, no, and you
So
generally,
what do we get?
you'll find the regulations under the PSC, the state laws won't be that specific in
Sure.
terms of that.
Sure.
So they will delegate that authority to the state agencies, whether it be DEC, whether it be
Sure.
PSC, whichever.
Sure. So you'll be.
I'm going to be doing a lot of work, research
His point,
lately.
right?
Yeah,
Who's-
no,
Who's saying 8 feet, who's saying 10 feet?
On the
I think,
website.
On the website, I did find the 10, 10, 15.
Sure.
That diagram is there.
Yeah, and then
And it explains it.
I can show you a
Yeah.
PDF that's in my email from
Yeah.
Nancy today that says 1088.
Yeah.
And
Strange.
so.
So can we
I don't know.
challenge that?
and
or
the
maybe
issue is
below 15 above, but.
what is advantageous in litigation is when you have inconsistencies.
Yeah, it seems.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out as I'm listening to people
Fair.
and taking notes and going, okay, let's see what we can do about working on those inconsistencies. Because then it's
Thank you.
harder for them to justify their actions if they're, well, over here you're saying 8, over here you're saying 10, over here you're saying 50.
Sure.
You can't play that game.
Yep,
So
fair enough.
if we
Appreciate it.
litigate, if we find there's inconsistency, well, there are inconsistencies, can we then ask a judge, for example, to put a stop to the work, to the ongoing work until a decision is rendered in court?
You're going to hate my answer. Maybe. It depends on how much of the materials I can get together. That's why I asked about the logging. That's why I'm asking about the inconsistencies. The more things you can put there, the value of the trees, the diminution in value of the homes, the status as the, tree city for over 26 years. The more things you can add on to that, the stronger your case. And that's what I'm trying to piece them all together as we're talking now.
What's the ultimate goal, right? So if we can file some sort of lawsuit to get them to stop, then maybe that brings them to the table and makes them more accountable and amenable as far as how they execute it, but they're still going to execute their plan. Right.
They may execute a plan. Which plan it is, I can't tell you right now. There's no way you're going to absolutely positively say any utility cannot do maintenance or cut trees or that are affecting their lines. I don't want to kid anybody and tell them that, yeah, that's going to be a possibility. It's a question of, doing the small things. Hey, the oak tree that was talked about, saving that, maybe saving,
Sure.
other trees in specific locations. Those are easier goals to get. A wholesale stoppage, no judge is going to do that. It's
Yeah,
there will be
realize.
smaller battles to win that potentially we can win. I mean, if we could show, for example, hey, they're cutting down these trees, and oh, by the way, one of the reasons they're cutting down the trees, the argument would be they're logging it because they're then making the money on it. They're not concerned about, saving the tree or it's a diseased tree.
That tree needs to
They
come
want,
down,
right. But those are the types of arguments and, things we need more information on.
Hey, Jesse, can you?
We'll
send me
chat.
that document?
Or even if we can get them to do the trimming in a less draconian way,
Yeah.
that's, might be satisfactory
Sure.
to the public, where they don't wake up in the morning and half the tree's gone.
See, what they're gonna end up doing is, ultimately, a court would balance the trees versus the utilities and because I'm sure there are people out there who want high-speed internet and that, and are less concerned. So it's a balancing act from a court's perspective, but I need enough ammunition to be able to get to that point. That's why we'll chat.
Sure. Yeah, I think we take up the financial harm piece of it as well.
Yeah, no.
How-
Well, there's definite
How do we get
harm.
things
There's
replaced?
definitely harm.
Sure.
The trees
But
have
even
great
then,
value.
Do we, can we replace trees? Can we put that into other similar projects, maybe? I guess finally, one thing I wanted to mention, aside from all the other conversations that we've had some conversations personally about the potential for burying electric lines, replacing the overhead wires with buried wires. The word that we hear is, it's too expensive. But we've never really had anything more to enumerate that, to tell us what that cost would be. If it's double the cost, maybe we had something to think about. If it's 100 times the cost, okay, maybe not. Maybe we don't want to be ripping up streets that are,
And killing the underside. of the
otherwise
tree.
alone, just to save some trees.
Yeah, but you're gonna kill
Now
the
you're
roots of the
killing,
trees.
yeah.
Maybe you kill the roots of the trees, but there are a lot of good trees still standing on Sycamore and Oakwood after those roads were taken up. And we've mentioned in these conversations, well, maybe next time that we do something like an Oakwood or Sycamore reconstruction, the water line projects, maybe we should try to at least bury some conduit at that point or prepare for a future where we can bury the lines. And here we are. We know Pine Street's getting redone. I talked with Dan Castle, since he's with the county. He says it's way too late to do anything with the Pine Street, with it already being well-defined and getting ready for being under construction. But there are other ones. I know Maple's coming in a year beyond, and given the condition of Buffalo Road, I wouldn't be surprised if that gets rebuilt here, in the not-too-distant future, hopefully. Maybe that's something that we can think about bringing up at that point. I just wanted to get that on the radar.
That's
for
good.
those.
Actually, when we did Oakwood, I did ask Maureen and Kathy Thomas to look into it. And do you remember what the quote was? It was almost.
It was Kathy, I didn't.
It was like $750,000 to $1 million. And this is them estimating it, right?
Sure.
And that was just to do the stretch of Oakwood, because we thought, hey, as long as Oakwood's torn up.
And that's,
Could be
yeah, and that
the-
was after it's already torn up. We're already doing that work, so, and that's just to lay it.
Right, while it's already torn
Yeah,
up.
the
Here-
conduit, yeah.
Yeah, because you got to connect to every house.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's not even something that we really, maybe we can't take the whole project on at that point, but at least prepare. Put conduit in the ground so that someday, the next time there's a big recovery grant, pandemic money running around, we can use it to bury lines. Anyway, just wanted to throw that on the radar because there are other road projects coming up.
Yeah, right, we got Maple next year.
Yeah. And bridges.
Not a bad idea.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hello, I'm Monique Brannon. I live on 191 King Street in East Aurora.
Hi, Monique.
And I happen to be the CEO of the Rural Outreach Center as well. To speak to that notion, is that we were informed that there would be some trees. We didn't know where that they were coming from. And we did say that we would put the message out to our participants, but no one's interested in them. We're not really interested in having a bunch of wood at the Rural Outreach Center, and most of our families really can't take advantage of that kind of thing. So I just kind of want to put that to rest, that it's not going to be a feel-good thing that the Rural Outreach Center is going to come in and take all the wood and everyone's going to be happy about it, because that's not the way it's going to work, okay? As a resident of King Street, and that the board wasn't sure what it looked like, I'd really like for you to just take a right when you leave here today.
Oh, yeah.
And look, see
We've
what's
seen
happened.
it.
I mean, it's been
It's awful.
devastated. My brother came in from Baltimore, he goes, what happened? Did a bomb go off on King Street? And then to speak to the notice, that notified, I was never notified that anything was gonna happen. And a tree didn't come down in front of my house. It's on the opposite side, but it is absolutely devastated. And I can't believe that we can't do more to save these trees. I know that we can. So let's all work together and let's come to a solution, or at least to slow down the work, because it is horrible what they've done. And they're not telling any of the residents when they're coming. They're not offering them the wood. That's not happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique.
Thank you.
I would like to address a little bit what Jesse said. I'm Jeanette de Jong from Warren Drive in the village. My neighborhood was lucky to have underline or underground lines, because we had 10 years, I think, after we moved, we had so many power outages that they decided to do that newer part of Warren Drive to put everything underground. Since then, we never had outages. So it can be done. I don't know what money you put into it, but 20 years ago, it was not a deterrent to go underground, and it is wonderful. So I'd like you to take note, and maybe you can fiddle with what the figures are, what it cost. Another thing that you might maybe add to the list of East Aurora, you are a climate-smart community. I'm from the ACES board. We worked bloody hard to get that that you were. And I hear the whole night talking about economic value and monetary things and wood. What about climate change? Is it cold enough for you today outside? Guess in the summer, you will love those trees. Do we hear about that? You need trees in a village. This is for me in 2025, with the environmental actions and all the money that came from, do something extra, and we take trees down. For me, it's beyond my Dutch mind. It is stupidity. And 250 years old trees, how old are we all? We cannot even, we cannot plant a tree and see then how tall it grows. It is insanity. And, I feel that those climate-smart community put the extra in there, that should be a deterrent, that we are not like maybe Lancaster is also climate-smart, I hope so for them, but that should tell them, hey, you cannot touch us without getting the information correct. Because to me, it sounds like one arm is doing this, the other arm is doing. We are logic, and we want to have the right, outcome. This sounds like we are fighting almost against our own actions. So that is at the moment what I would like to. Another, and this is maybe my mind cannot get behind this. Do they come with poles, and the poles have a specific set where they need to do, and then they figure if the tree is in their way? Or do they look at the trees and say, how can we place a pole that the pole will be 8 feet from the tree? It is a matter of asking the question, how do they go about it? Because that is an easy one. You just put your poles that are 8 feet or 10 feet, or God knows how many feet they want, from the trees. is that something or is that unusual? That would be my approach.
I think
So
we're too-
thank you for the time.
Thank you. Shane, are you familiar with the rubric they use when they're trimming the trees?
The dimensions?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a straight 8 feet, right? Don't they go back a certain branch to a certain?
Well, that
secondary
was
branch?
what we agreed on in the meetings, and Jesse recommended that they don't cut to the 10 feet, they cut to what is best for the tree past that point, right? Where'd Jesse go? Right, to the Y or wherever on the tree that's the best position to cut for, so. And that was our request to do that, because they would just cut to the 10 feet or the 15 feet, which wasn't necessarily the best spot to trim it, so.
Thank you. Who else?
Hi, my name is Jessica Masters, 139 King Street. So a lot of what I was going to say and ask has kind of already been addressed, so I don't have a lot new to add, but I just wanted to add some more support for doing anything we possibly can on this. It was mentioned earlier that there might be some legal Hail Marys or lawsuits that might be able to be pursued with full support of the board, so I hope that that support is there. It seems like the full community support is there for that. And the only other question I had that just came to mind is it was mentioned if there might be some sort of legal action that the court would balance the desires of the homeowners and the residents to protect the trees against people wanting this new service. And is there any data that anyone actually wants this new service? It seems like if GoNet Speed is saying that, there should be some data to back that up. There's lots of other, wireless, newer technologies now to get internet, and it's just, this seems like they should have to say that, yes, there is this demand for this service, if that's what's going to be the argument for cutting down all these trees. So that's it. Thanks.
That was a question of mine as well. The GoNet Speed, do they need permission from towns or counties to enter and run their lines, or they just need an agreement with the NYSEG people that own the poles? And
Depends on where
so
they're going.
they're a vendor of NYSEG's, and we have nothing to do with it. NYSEG, you can use these many.
No
poles.
location on the poles of NYSEG, so NYSEG has that control over who goes on their poles.
And who expands their, basically. Okay.
So the community saying they don't want the fiber, they'd rather the trees, that's not going to carry weight?
Not our fault.
The trees, or the lines are still going to be there, there just won't be the additional lines, and then it's a matter of NYSEG coming in and trimming them if there's the need for it, which my understanding was NYSEG was coming anyway, ultimately.
Right, NYSEG
It is going to come
using this
anyway.
to avoid paying to protect themselves.
Right.
So they're
Right.
having.
Because they're expanding, not maintaining. And I'm still chewing on that bone,
got that
Chris.
too.
I don't care. I still think that they're making a capital investment and they're not maintaining, and we're bearing the brunt of it. So, and I think that's the crux that we can
Yeah, that's.
hang our hat on. I hope, I don't know, but thank you.
Jen?
Jennifer Brazil, 115 Blake Hill Road. I wasn't going to talk tonight because I told my mom I wouldn't, because who's here? Because I get, as you all are aware, I'm very emotional around this whole project. And I've been a big advocate in opposition of the entire project from the beginning. I would like to just let, I think, Holly.
Most of my questions were answered. I just wanted to ask about the economics, because
Well-
it seems there's so much profit being made
Okay.
by large companies.
Well, I did want to just tell you that you had mentioned like the media and senator, and all. We have gone through all those channels.
Hey, Jen,
and-
you have to look at the board.
We've emailed with Senator Galvin's office for quite. Sue Russell and I have been on emails with Senator Galvin's office since this project began, so they are very aware of this. We also were on Channel 7 News, so the media is aware of it. So we have done all of the outreach that you were referencing since the beginning. The reason that I just decided to talk, because everybody else you guys all know how I feel, pretty obviously, and everybody else has addressed all the other things, but I was just thinking about what you're gathering, your legal data, something beyond the trees that isn't being talked about that I brought up to some of our team today, the last couple of days, was the environmental impact of the poles. that they're using. They're putting in these new poles. When you put poles in the ground, it's very well known that chemicals also come attached to these poles. And because GoNet is riding the coattails of NYSEG and the right-of-way project, the whole legal rigmarole around that, they're not required to do a secret report, which is an environmental impact study. So we have no idea what the impact actually is. Yeah, I'm obviously here advocating for the trees, but in addition to that, there's a massive environmental impact going on with all these new poles getting put in. And they're leaving behind all these old poles that still have impacts and chemicals. These chemicals, I'll send you guys a bunch of links if you want, but they're known to potentially leak into drinking water and contaminate the ground. So this is just such incredibly irresponsible of these companies to just assume that we as a community should not demand an environmental impact report. Like, we deserve to know what this is doing to our ground and our trees and our drinking water and our carbon footprint. And we deserve that. Like, we pay to live here. This is our community. And on the legal side of things, I don't know if that helps you at all, but I think looking into the pole impact as well might be a good idea. I think you're totally right, Steve. I agree with you that I feel like this is NYSEG's way out of responsibility, and GoNet's getting the community backlash versus NYSEG, as well as also they're paying for it, So NYSEG's passing the buck in a million different ways on this project, in my personal opinion. I lost all my notes because I get nervous when I talk about this. But I'm just wanted to say, too, that I'm really grateful for all the people that have showed up tonight, because this has been a several-month process, and I'm glad that more and more people are getting more engaged, and I'm really grateful for all of you taking the time. And I also think you're probably aware, but next Monday at the town board meeting, apparently all of the casted characters are coming out to speak at that meeting. So if any of you are available and can attend the town board meeting, it might be a good idea, because I think GoNet's coming, O'Connell's coming, and NYSEG are all attending the town board meeting next week. And maybe they'll answer some questions there that we have as well. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Who else?
Evening. Michelle Biella, 370 South Park Place in the Village. A lot of important comments have been made tonight. It's amazing, though, how short-sighted we end up because of the cultural value, the economic value, and human health. I can't think of any better reason for this village board to become a climate-smart village, a municipality. You're missing the boat on that. And there is no way that I think this is an easy problem. It is a difficult problem, but the information that Jennifer just gave us about human health and the potential with the polls, to me, should be the tipping point for you all to do some more things. And I'd like to know, beyond the legal things that the attorney has mentioned, what entity in the village board, whether it's a number of committees together or the board itself, is going to be responsive to the people sitting here tonight. Because we can talk till we're blue in the face, but when you hear of that triad, the cultural value, the economic impact, and the potential human health impact, and then you have climate change, the warming that's looming, I don't think you can ignore this anymore. And I don't think saving one tree makes a darn bit of difference. It's only symbolic. And I'm just saying what my kinder, more, I guess, well-spoken friends have not said. One tree doesn't make a darn bit of difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ashley Curry, 110 Maple Road, also in the village, and most everything has certainly been said and covered. And it's tempting and so easy to get caught up being reactionary, but this is a wake-up call for all of us that we elect and all of us that volunteer to support and all of us that choose to live and invest in this community. That we need to be better at foresight, we need to be better at planning, and we certainly need to do that better together. So while we're collecting all the things and gathering the information and looking at, quotes for burying things underground, we certainly also need to talk to our counterparts and see, how much is it already costing us to maintain wires that fall down or trees that cross streets. Certainly there's ways that that cost gets a little closer to an offset, and opportunities for downtown investments that potentially could cover. I think obviously we can't fight City Hall. Couldn't resist, Chris. But certainly the utilities getting bad press isn't good for them either, and should open them up to opportunities to repair what may be done after the fact, or environmental reports after the fact are also just as valid. Trees being provided to the community in phases to replace so that we have, many years of tree growth. There's a lot of opportunity for them to make it right on the other side, especially with the power of the quantification of the damage that's being done, so that we could potentially lose our status as a climate smart community or as a tree smart nation, but we could have a plan to get it back, and we could have a plan to get it back together. And also, it was a big victory, Shane. We believe that you can do more of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Who else would like to speak?
Tiny other thing for Mr. Trapp.
You
Could
gotta
you-
come up here.
This we record it. We record them all,
I
Nancy.
can send Shane some of these documents that I have.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, but it refers to, it says we use standards, and this is like an arborist type standard. It's, you probably know, Jeff, it's like the ANSI, American Northern Standards, right? You can just ask Jeff about this too, and it's A300. And they have a whole, I looked at it, they have a whole section, and they have a section about pruning around utilities. There's no 10, 10, 10, 15 in there. So they're saying this is where we get our numbers. So one tree may not be great, but if it could not be 10, 10, 10, 15, if it could be 2 and 4, how big is that broadband wire? We could change all of what they were doing. That would be a significant victory. So Jeff has the standards.
Thank you. Who else wants to speak? Anybody else? All right, back to the board. Chris, you're gonna take all this into account? See if you can figure out how to just look at the value of the trees and expanding,
it's-
not maintaining, and
And getting photos. I'm
Tree City USA
To be honest with you, I'm
status.
already on Google Maps getting the prior pictures with the trees. So,
All right, can you also look into where they get their standards from?
yep. No, that's all on the table.
Because if it's 10 foot
It's in my
one place
notes.
and 8 foot another place, and it's nowhere another place, then
Yeah, I'm familiar with ANSI standards
Yeah.
and
maybe we could change that
that
as well.
concept, but let me do some work.
Shane, do you want to reach out to your contact as well and talk to him about the 8 foot on the NYSEG site? I know you got a contact at NYSEG that answers the phone when you call.
That Lucas?
Jesse, do you think you could put together a short list of significant trees that we can at least earmark now? Yeah? That'd be awesome. Get those into Maureen, please.
Yeah.
What else is the board thinking? Oh, how about the getting advance notice of when they're going to go down the street?
I thought that, yeah.
They
They are.
notify the people whose side of the street the wires are on. They don't notify everybody on the street.
But in advance of the postcard, like they said?
Yes.
Sheila, did you get one?
indicated that when they came before to say we are coming down, but they didn't say what they were doing.
Yeah, with their work, I don't think they can give you an exact time that they'll be in front of your house because one area might take longer than the other. But I know they do leave a postcard. They knock on the door, leave a postcard prior to the day they're going to be there. And then the day they're coming, if they're doing any work in front of your house, they're supposed to knock on the door.
If you don't specifically ask, the girl told me that if my neighbors didn't specifically ask them to come to the door, they'd receive notice with everything they want. But I have
Yeah, all the information's on the card. When you get the card, you can call them and request that they notify you before they do the work, and you'd like to be appraised of everything. But then you got to be available when they're there also. So.
All right, I need them to come
Get
to.
a postcard, but it had no date on it, and we did call, and were never told when they were coming, and I work from home, so.
They
I've
le-
been there.
So they left you a postcard,
They left
there was no
postcard,
date
no
on
date,
it,
no
you
time.
called them,
We called. They
Nobody
said
called
they
you
can't
back.
tell you any more information, and if they came to the door, then I was there, so. I don't think they did.
yeah.
I do have one more question. As a My name's Holly Maciaski, and I just wonder, with all the information we've gotten from Nancy Smith, say, on how much that depreciates the property, what happens in front of that house, and I wonder, as a multi-pronged effort, if those companies could be sued for the value that that particular house, say on Pine Street, was depreciated in the last month. Because, and you know, eventually a class action suit, because it is depreciated and it's documented. Just an idea.
Yeah, except that would have to be a suit brought by the landowners because it's their houses, homes. It's not something the village could bring in that type of a context.
What about the tax, the lower of the tax base, lowering of the tax base
That
for the
doesn't
village?
lower the taxes, it just who,
Wouldn't it?
it just moves it around.
Ah,
Doesn't
okay,
lower it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that'd be something I'd consider if I was a homeowner.
Oh, and well, I don't know how official iTree is, the app Nancy talked about. But if they value our tree cover at $553,000 a year, can the community sue them? As a whole?
Not for individual diminution of value of an individual property.
For the community as a whole?
What you would be doing it in terms of loss of the value generally to the community as a whole.
Right.
But not with respect to an individual property and damages to an individual property. That would have to come from the individual property owner.
It'd be hard to make that case too, wouldn't
It's, I've seen diminution of value cases before.
With the
They're
utility though?
really hard to win.
Right.
But the other
Yeah,
path,
I've seen it with sewer lines, for example.
the other pathway, you kind of explored a little bit about possibly pursuing a stay order. How difficult is it to put
Oh, what's
together
that? That
a
would
stay
be-
order? a
Stay order.
Judicial
Well,
stay
that would
order?
be part of the initial request, to stay and seeking an injunction.
Right.
Can I just clarify,
People
the
need to be
iTree
here
is
for this.
ecosystem services, it's not property value, those are two separate ways they're being impacted.
No, I
Okay.
understand.
Taking
Thank
notes
you.
of it, and I'd have to microphone.
Oh, and last, Shane, when you're talking to your NICEAG person, can you look into, since Maple's not being done till next year,
Underground.
putting a conduit under there on that stretch?
That would be the county's responsibility.
There's no way,
They'd be the one in charge of it? Yeah, so can you reach out to the county? What's her name, Gina Wolkowski, right? Is that a person? Jen?
Yeah, but that's a Main Street revitalization.
Could you come?
Keeping it official, thank you.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to know, Shane, if you got in writing that they said they weren't going to touch that tree on South Grove? Because they've done since the beginning, they have told us, me and Jesse and some other people, some things verbally, and they've now gone and done a complete opposite of that. So my suggestion would have them send an email or something, so you have it in writing, that they said they weren't going to touch
That's
it.
a good idea.
We have it.
But yeah,
Do we?
just because I've seen it go back on several other things. And then you probably have seen, but they're currently working on East Main Street, and they've taken out half the trees on East Main so far, heading towards Mandala School. And it looks horrible. And that's the gateway to the village. I mean, that's the entrance to East Aurora. Those canopies all spill over, and that's what everybody sees when they come into town, and they're already halfway down East Main. So I don't know if it makes sense to be like, stop working on that street right now, because that's our main street, or not. But just wanted to make sure everybody knows that that's where they're working currently. So, thank you.
Thank you. Shane, is that something you can throw out there when you're talking with them as far as while Chris is working on a possible lawsuit, see if you can have them redirected somewhere else? I mean, they're just moving around with their trucks, right?
I can ask.
Can't hurt to ask.
Mr. Mayor, if I can only interject real quick, I can feel the pulse of the room and the passion in this room tonight, and I just want to also caution the community that the best way to deal with this is the way you've done it tonight with your civil speaking and whatever. As these gentlemen are working on your streets, they are apprentice linemen, they are working a job, they were told by the big man what to do. And a lot of these folks are just doing a job that they've been told to do. So when they're doing something you don't like or you don't agree with, notify the village, call Shane, call the people that are the stakeholders or somewhat the stakeholders in this. Don't engage these people working in a way that can get carried away. We've had some incidents already that have been reported to us, and passion can get a hold of you, and before you know it, we've gotten ourselves in over our heads, and we're doing things we wouldn't normally do because we're so upset and so worked up about it. So please just, when you see something you don't like, address it the right way, and let us folks at the village handle that for you, so that it doesn't get any uglier than it already is.
Yeah, the chief makes a great point, right? We don't want to exacerbate it to the point of having an incident, but in my personal experience, luckily my parents are retired, they were home. I went over there, I talked with the guys, when you catch more flies with sugar, right? I talked to the guys, my parents were bringing them bottles of water. These are nice, tree cutting guys from a few years back. And they were like, hey, can you go easy on that tree and can you leave at least that part? And they did, and the neighbor to the right wasn't home, and they just cut everything. The neighbor to the left was home and wouldn't let them on the property at all, so they didn't touch it. So, I mean, if you can be there and maybe appeal to them a little bit, you might get a better result than not being there or coming after them in anger.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I'm just saying, when the passion gets overridden and people get very angry, that's when we run into our issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I think that's a great point, Pat, and I think it's also safe to say that's why most of us on the board don't sound like we're super angry, because we can't afford to make a mistake, right? Like, we've got to do this right. If we shoot off and say something wrong here, it can have pretty bad consequences. So, yeah, it's safe to say nobody's happy about this. Nobody's been happy about this. Can we just recap the list of what everybody's working on? I think we've just gone through a whole bunch of tasking people with things.
Yeah. Jesse's going to work on a short list of significant trees that hopefully will fall under the cultural landscape report for significant outside of the built landscape. Chris is going to see what kind of lawsuit he can file based on value of the trees, based on them expanding, not maintaining, and whatever else he's got in his notes that he can bring to bear. Shane's going to talk to NYSEG about and Chris is also going to talk to, look into the standards they use as well.
Yeah, well, that's part of the
it. Meanwhile, Shane is going to talk to NYSEG about the 8 feet versus 10 feet versus no mention as far as the standards they use. He's going to talk to him about coming off of East Main, saving that for later. And talking to NYSEG about the potential to bury the lines on Maple. What else? Was there another one, Shane?
Do you want me to ask NYSEG if they'll bury the lines on Maple when it's constructed, or are we asking the county if they bury conduit so they could be buried? Or both?
Maybe both. I guess
Yeah.
both. I think when we did it for Oakwood, we just asked NYSEG because it was a village street. What else? I'm going to reach out to Governor Hochul's local representative, Bonnie Lockwood, tomorrow. See if there's any progress to be made there. What else? Yeah.
If they're providing plans, could they also give us an idea of when they're going to remove the extra poles that are being put in?
It's a different company.
Yeah.
It says usually Verizon.
When they came before us, that was one of the questions
Yeah,
we asked them. They
that's
said it's
going to be
third
the
party does it.
last utility that's on the line, and that's generally going to be Verizon's phone line. So it'll be up to Verizon on their schedule of when they're remove the extra
I
pole.
think they said they're supposed to do it in 90 days.
90 days. It's
Yeah,
90 days.
we're told that doesn't always happen either.
But if they're supposed to, is that something where we can hold their feet to the fire?
We can try.
Okay.
So tag, you're the last utility, it's you hold the bag,
Yeah.
but 90 days we could maybe hold. Let us put on to something, Shane.
Verizon is really interested in their landline phone lines because they're so used. So they have to maintain them, but they're not really interested in them anymore. Well, no, the power. The landline phone lines. All right.
We're not taking any of their additional services.
Right. Right.
All right. Anything else to add on the board? All right. Anyone have anything else, speakers and communications, before we move on? All right, closing that, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. There are no public hearings. Moving on to official considerations. And I get a motion to approve the resolution for the special use permit application for 640 Main Street Lower. Applicant Andrew Kraus, Hop and Hemp Tea, Inc., doing business as Buffalo Kind for a cannabis dispensary.
Second.
Moved by Jeff, second by Steve. And what's that? Yeah, the one consideration that we didn't pre-populate into the permit was the hours. And the condition is, so they recommend, or actually they mandate, is this the Office of Cannabis Management, 70 hours
Liz
a
would like to
week?
talk about
Liz?
that.
Oh, go.
The condition
Yeah.
that the planning board made, or the
Yeah.
planning commission made.
Right.
So on September 11th, I received an email from Buffalo Kind, and they met with the police chief on September 11th to discuss their safety and security. Then we have that in writing from the chief.
Okay, good.
So they met that condition.
Thank you. There was another condition that I think Chris suggested we add to the resolution regarding the hours. Where did the 70 hours a week come?
Liz, the 70 hours max a week, that's already a standard, that's not our standard, right?
That's a New York standard.
Yeah.
New York State Office of Cannabis Management Standard.
Yep.
70 hours a week, and these hours, are these given to us by the applicant?
The hours on the application were 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, noon to 5 p.m.
Which adds up to just under 70 hours. Andrew's at, we get that right? Okay.
So that's on the application, then your letter that follows the application has different hours in it. So do you want to follow the hours in the application or within the letter? The letter is Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9, and Sundays 11 to 5. And then your other one is 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, Friday, Saturday 10 to 10, Sunday 10 to 5, or 12 to 5.
We'll see.
The first
So
one?
actually, the first one
Well,
adds
is
up
that
to
too many hours?
74, 75 hours, which would be over New York State's requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's because there's a discrepancy in the two.
So this is
So-
going in the resolution.
So Jeff, do you want to add that condition to your resolution, to your motion?
Yes, I would like to amend my motion to add the hours Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Total of 69 hours?
69, yep. Thank you, Steve. You seconding that?
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Congratulations. I get a motion to appoint new police officer Jake J. Sroka, effective January 18th, 2025, at step 1 of the CBA.
So moved.
Moved by Kristen, second.
Second.
Wait,
Second
it's
by
your
Grace.
motion. It's your motion.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's
You
my
are.
motion.
It's your
Do I need a
motion,
second?
seconded by Kristen.
All right. So I'm making the motion, seconded by Kristen. It's a roll call vote. Before that, any other discussion? Jake? How you doing? You have lots of patience to sit there this whole time and let us talk about trees, so thanks for that. That's good. You're going to need patience in this job. Yeah. Anything you want
Go
to
ahead.
add?
No.
Yeah? Pat?
I'll talk for him a little bit. So this is Jake Soroka. I recommend to the board tonight to hire him as a police officer. He's just put himself through phase 1 of 2 phases of the police academy. By being hired by the Village of East Aurora, he will enter phase 2, which is the firearms and defensive tactics portion of the academy. I want to say that I think we're lucky to get a guy like Jake to come on board and work with our agency. He's originally from Alden. He did 6 years United States Army. He did 10 and a half months in Afghanistan and was a group leader of a group of infantrymen. He's impressed us so far in the interview process, and we're excited to have him come aboard.
Fantastic. Anything you want to add, Jake?
No, sir.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And thank you for choosing East Aurora.
Roll call.
The appointment's made by me, second by Kristen. Roll call vote. Steve?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Ernie?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Molly?
Aye.
Grace?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. It's unanimous. Welcome aboard. Nice.
Have a good night.
Thank you. I get a motion to approve the budget adjustments.
Nobody wants to
Somebody.
adjust.
So moved. Anybody? Ernie? Second?
Second?
Second by Molly. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moving on to old business. East Leafs notification comments. Did anybody send you anything? Any concerns they
I
had?
got no comments from anybody, and Liz said it was within the proper area, so.
It works with you, Liz. Grace, you checked out one of their other businesses?
Seems like it
Reputable looking joint,
was very nice.
pun intended. All right. Anybody else have anything on East Leaf?
Nope.
And our notification that we send to the OCM? Okay. Moving on to the county traffic survey. You want to just summarize it? The Porterville Road, Pine Street?
Quickly, the county did their study. It does not meet the criteria to have a 3-way stop put in, so they will not be installing a 3-way stop.
They don't recommend any sort of changes to it at all?
Nope,
Right?
no recommendations at all.
No history of accidents, right? Isn't that part of their justification for not changing it?
Correct. Well, that's part of it, yeah. They do, the wording is kind of funny in the letter. It says they don't recommend putting it in. And I did ask the question, I said, what if we asked to put it in anyway, since it's recommended and not, and they said, no, it doesn't meet the criteria, so.
Okay. Anybody want to do anything different besides follow the county's recommendations?
Can we do anything?
Yeah.
He said they can't.
Well, they could come up with something
We're just gonna
creative
start
and
suing
different.
everybody?
Yeah. Sue them? Sue the county, says Molly?
No, I did not say that.
So everybody's okay with that then. Moving on. Second, speakers and communications. Anybody want to speak on any topic? Raise your hand, last chance. If you didn't get it out, sir.
Hello all, Joseph White, 761 Lawrence, local resident, local business owner. I'll leave the passion behind today. What would the board suggest, what sort of action would we take to, what are our rights if they approach us and we tell them, please don't touch a tree on a property? If we ask them for a proof of easement, if we ask them for any of their
Joe,
environmental
would you mind just
impact.
closing that door?
Well, you can't
No.
close it, ask them to move though, because it's an open meeting, so unless you post something out there, the door's got to be open.
Doors can't be closed during the meeting?
Well, you can have a sign up there. Yeah, but they won't know it's there. So
you
technically,
learn something every day.
You have to have a sign. You can put a sign, door closed, noise or something, but you
No,
got.
that's okay. I did speak to the arborist foreman, Stan. They were doing some, on that corner Fisher Price lot on Pine and, what's that street there? Gerard, Pine and Gerard. They were parked in front of my house. I noticed my neighbor come out, start asking some questions. I had spoken to Stan previously and civically. And I asked, do you have a map where you can provide us a notification of the work that's going to be done? Are you going to be, touching this tree on the property? And he did laugh and he said, there are many maps. No one's going to give you a straight answer. And I said, okay, well, if you do provide us notification that you might be touching our tree, I would at least like you to have your proof of easement, your proof of whatever. And he literally scoffed, laughed, rolled up his window, and drove away from my neighbor and I. So if they do come to us, what rights do we have and how can we address it to them? What do you suggest? Can we say, like, we need documentation?
Jeff, what's the footage from the center of the road for a right-of-way?
Thank you.
Most of the trees that they have touched are village-owned trees.
Right. I believe they are well aware of the right-of-way depth for each street from NYSEG. So if they are to go off that and go onto somebody's property, they will notify that person and have them sign a waiver. If they don't want to sign the waiver or whatever the paperwork is, then they won't do it. So, but if it's in the right-of-way, they have every right to touch it.
Yeah, we've got our house is 1920, the tree is maybe 50 years older than that. He's not legally my father-in-law, but my late stepdad, if you will. In his lifetime, he had put tens of thousands of dollars into, nutritional injections. He had some guy from the Adirondacks climbing up that thing, cabling branches, and it hasn't been well maintained. And I just asked, for some proper notification from them. Stan did laugh and drive. So
Is it between the road and the sidewalk?
There's no sidewalk on that side of the house.
The phone number for the mailers, the phone number for the door hangers is on our website. You can call them ahead of time and just say, this is my address. If you are going to touch this tree on my property, I want to be contacted ahead of time. And if you want, send them a certified letter, and you have proof that you've notified them.
That's great. I think that's the thing that should be spread out to more citizens of the village. I think they should know that they have rights or have the option to object at some level.
Liz?
It should, like, to stand up.
Yeah, I was going
If
to say,
it's in the
Liz, if
right-of-way-
there's no sidewalk,
Right.
that right-of-way can be 10 feet into the yard, and that's
Yeah.
not your property.
Right.
Between there, so,
So, and the
Some of those
right-of-way
are
is
pretty-
the
property,
right-of-way
but
doesn't
they
measure.
have the right.
well, right,
The
they have
right-of-way.
the,
It's, no,
But
it's
some of
from
those
the
are
middle of
pretty
the road
deep,
in
as I
33
recall.
feet or whatever that particular street is.
especially the ones without sidewalks, some of those are pretty deep, if I recall.
Would it be possible, Jeff, to go to Joe White's house and just let him know if if that tree's within the right of way or not?
Yeah, I could mark it right away off.
Would that be possible? Because you're on, what's the number on Lawrence?
761 Lawrence. We got, beautiful silver leaf and then a beech tree that will probably be in the way.
And that way, you can, find out one way or the other and maybe rest easy.
Yeah, I mean, because we clock in at 11 p.m. midnight, so they could go in at 8 a.m. I'm not going to be there to chain myself to it or park our food truck in front of it or whatever we could do to mitigate, the loss.
It is a beautiful tree.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Speakers and communications, anyone else? All right, it's closed. Department head report, Pat?
The police department, we did have a busy month of December with the Christmas, I forget what the actual wording was behind the West End businesses and the cavalcade. Luckily, all of that went very smoothly. It was a great snowy night in East Aurora for the cavalcade. I think everybody enjoyed themselves there. Through the Christmas season, we've been busy. Obviously, people are home, people are partying, and traffic enforcement has been a priority. Parking enforcement has been a priority. And at this point, everything's looking good over there. I would like to just revisit at some point. I wish he would have stayed a little longer because he had some insight on the Temple Place parking with his landlord. But I still want to work on figuring out a way to get Temple Place so that the police, fire, DPW, there's a litany of issues over there and no place to park. So working on with Jeff, talking about that pretty much every morning when we come in and seeing what we can come up with, and that's about it for the police department.
All right, so as far as, I guess those are two different issues I see it as. One is parking, right? So I'm working with Glenn, the property owner behind Dopest Doe, trying to see if we can come to an agreement on something, working something out with that lot. But second, the fire truck access to those homes in that turn. I know you talked about it at the last meeting. So
The parking and the fire and the access kind of go hand in hand, because if people are able to park somewhere else, then there's access. And right now, there is no place for them to park, and Jeff's plow trucks don't get down the street. We can't get cars down the street. Couldn't get a fire truck down the street. And the snowpack even compounds the issue. It makes it even worse. And
okay.
I mean, this issue is longer than I've been alive, you know.
So say, like I said, I used to live on Temple, so I know what you're talking about. So say I can work it out where that opens up to public parking, right behind Dopest Doe. What's to keep the homeowners from still parking on Temple Place, right? And what if it fills up with Rick's valet drivers are putting all the cars in that lot, and we say no parking on Temple Place, and then the people who live there are like, we can't get in the lot anyway because it's full. You know what I mean?
Well, the village, you know, if the village, I don't know all the rules and ramifications of it. The attorneys can answer better, but if you make that street illegal to park on and you give access to the lot in the interest of giving your residents a place to park, maybe permitted parking with numbers, I don't know.
Designated
But-
spaces for residents at Temple.
Yeah, I believe you can certainly pass an ordinance to make that street no parking, and we'll be happy to enforce it.
You talking with Aaron about this too, as far as the trucks?
Yeah, he's on board.
Figured Jeff's plow gets down and a fire truck.
Well, Aaron's not here to talk, but
Yeah.
he, you know, that he faces the same issue. I mean, their trucks are just as big or wider, you know.
All right. Anything else, Pat? Thank you, Chief. Jeff?
We're getting a break from the snow, which is nice. We're patching holes, picking up trees. We're taking down Christmas decorations this week. Trying to get our trucks back in order. One's still at the shop. It's been there for a month. I'm waiting to hear back from them tomorrow.
You think we'll have it this winter?
We don't know yet. I'll know tomorrow. And we were taking our other truck today, and it went in a derate mode as soon as we left, so we had to get it towed to the shop. So we're down 2 trucks right now, but the truck that went in a derate mode should be done within a day or 2.
Okay. And there's no big snow coming, right? The next
Not this week.
4, 5, 6 days?
Yeah.
So if we don't get that third truck back for this winter, what's your plan to deal with it with only 2 trucks? Can you safely plow the village with 2 trucks? Do you?
I can
have access to a
definitely do
third
the,
truck?
yeah, we can do the whole village with 2 trucks. It takes about an hour and a half longer, but it's doable. We could always borrow the Elma truck again, maybe get some new tires for it, as maybe a little thank you for letting us borrow it. So,
Put them on it, and we use it, they're not using it this winter?
no.
Is that legal for us to do, to buy the tires to put on their truck, to borrow their truck, so we can drive safely with it on our roads?
To gift the public.
With an agreement.
Yeah.
We have to- yeah, we have to-
Intermunicipal agreement.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you put the new tires on when we use it, take them off and send them back.
Wow.
You just take it back to them, put it on blocks. With no tires, leave the tires in the dumper in the back.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Liz? I have nothing, thank you. All right, thanks. Shane?
Nothing more.
Very good. Maureen?
No.
All right. Grace?
All set.
Molly?
Good.
Jeffrey?
All good, thank you.
Ernie?
I like that the mobile camera was down at the Carolcade. And I think it may have played a role in a situation. Some young men were intoxicated, were starting to get a little, and my son-in-law said that it was amazing how quickly the police responded to the situation, and I wonder if that camera didn't play a role in looking and watching what was going on in the crowd, because it was kind of it happened very quickly.
I would like to tell you yes, but I'm going to go with.
Not allowed to.
I'm going to go with the officers down there that night. Probably just saw what was going on and responded. They don't all have access to it because it's just impossible to have everybody on the force be able to access that. Myself and some other supervisors do. I was watching it from there that night. I didn't see that, but I'm glad to hear that my guys were paying attention and mitigated something that they saw going on. So we did have 3 or 4 officers down there.
Yeah, it was kind of, he said it got a little weird for a while. It was a couple intoxicated young men, and they were starting to pick a fight. They were going, and the police were there very quickly, very professional, handled it, took care of it, removed the men from the site, and so I just saw the camera there. I thought that was fantastic to have. That's perfect for that kind of situation to have that.
It's absolutely been a great tool. We got to give credit to Shane. He ordered it originally. It was his idea. So, but it's actually been, we've used it a lot. We used it at the park. As soon as we put it up at the park, nobody's been back from the park to complain. So it's working. Yeah, we'd like to have about 4 more of them, to be honest. I mean, it's a deterrent for sure. People see that and they think, well, somebody's watching us. So, and most of the time we are. The screens are up in our dispatch center. So to go back on what I just said to you, that's wrong. Maybe if I look into it a little bit further, maybe they did tell them something, because both dispatchers are watching that at all times. It's on one of their computer screens. So.
And I saw that it was back in the park the other day when I went back to look at the oak tree. It was parked over there, and that was good.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's it for me.
Thanks, Ernie. Kristen?
Yeah, they're mostly gone by now, but I did want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, making all the comments. I say all the time, it's a lot harder to get up and speak from out there than it is to speak from up here. So just really appreciate all the thoughts and the insight. I think we've got a ton of notes and things we can carry forward. So thanks for coming out. That's all I've got.
Very good. Thank you. Steve?
I'm all set.
All right. I would echo what Kristen said. And we appreciate the passion of the village residents, especially the ones who come out. And, despite how nervous they are, they get up here and tell us what's important to them. And that's what's important to us. So we really do appreciate their passion. And I'd like to thank the village office staff for all their flexibility over the last week as well. Can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:46?
So moved.
Steve, second.
Second.
Second by Grace. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying.